In this video, we are taking a look at the Sterling by Musicman DarkRay. This is a Stingray bass with a custom Darkglass 2-band preamp and distortion circuit. And with this bass, you basically get three different modes. You have a clean setting, you have the Darkglass Alpha distortion setting, and then you have the Darkglass Omega fuzz. And we'll be exploring all three of those in detail in this video. So let's start out by taking a look at all the controls that you have on this bass. As you can see, we have 5 different knobs here. This is a bass, boost and cut. We have a treble, boost and cut. This is a blend knob to blend your clean signal with your process signal. This is a gain knob, which controls how much distortion you're using. And then you have the volume knob. And then you have a 3-way switch here, which looks like a pickup selector switch, but it's actually how you're gonna change from one mode to the other. So when we have it all the way to the right here, you have just your regular clean sound. If you go to the middle position, you see that red light turn on. That is the alpha distortion setting. And then if we go one more to the left here, you see the blue light. That is the omega fuzz. Now let's start out with the clean sound here. And this is something that I think people don't really talk about enough, is the clean sound on this bass. Obviously, because the main star of the show is that distortion circuit, so why would you focus on the clean sound? But I gotta say, the clean sound on this bass is amazing. It's one of the best clean sounds that I've heard on a Stingray bass, and it's because it has that Darkglass custom preamp, which is really, really nice. Very, very clean sounding, very nice EQ on that preamp. And you have a bass boost and cut and a treble boost and cut here, which we're going to play around with in a minute and see how it sounds. But I really, really like how this sounds. The last video I posted was a review of the Sterling by Musicman Ray 4. And in that video, I mentioned how I don't really like how dirty sounding the preamp and the pickup is and how mid-rangey it is. That was really the only thing I didn't like about the bass, is the stock electronics. And this one is the complete opposite. This one is exactly what I described in that video that I like and that I look for. A very, very clean sound, punchy, musical, just amazing. I really, really like the clean sound on this bass. So let's play around with it and see how it sounds. We'll start off with a little bit of fingerstyle, and we'll just focus on this a little bit. I'm not going to put too much time because obviously the main star of the show is that distortion, and I don't want this video to get too long. So if you want to just skip the distortion part, you can. I'll put the timestamps. But let's just start out here with a little bit of fingerstyle, just with it flat right here, and then we'll play around with the EQ a little bit and see how that sounds. So as you can see, very clean sounding, very punchy, great sound, and that's with the EQ flat. So now let's boost the bass all the way and see how that sounds. See, really, really nice bass right there. It's just really, really punchy all the way through. Really, really clean sounding, even with the bass boosted all the way. Really, really nice EQ. I love this custom preamp. And now let's try cutting the bass all the way. see the drastic difference that that makes. Really, really nice EQ for shaping your sound. And now let's try that with the treble, boost that all the way. So you can see, doesn't really get very harsh sounding at all, just really, really nice. Even with the treble boosted all the way, which usually that would be pretty harsh and wouldn't sound that good, it's really, really not that bad. It's not that harsh sounding, it's really nice. And now let's cut it all the way. And that gives you an idea of the bass and treble and the EQ and what all that's doing. And now, while we're in the clean sound, let's just do a little bit of slap, because, you know, obviously it's a Stingray, it's known for slap. We have to do a little bit of it, and it sounds so good through this preamp. So let's keep everything flat right here, and let's see how that sounds. So as you can see, very clean sounding, punchy, really, really nice sounding. Exactly the kind of sound that I look for when I'm playing a Stingray. So I love how that 2-band preamp sounds with just a clean sound on this bass. But we'll just leave it at that and move on to distortion, because like I said, that's the main star of the show. I don't want to spend too much time on the clean sound, and I don't want to make this video too long either. So let's move on from that. Hopefully that gives you a good idea of the clean sound, which I think not enough people talk about, but it's really, really, really nice. Okay, so now let's move on to the alpha distortion setting here, which is the middle switch position, the red light. And the main difference between the alpha and the omega, which is the blue one here, is that the alpha is like a really tight, punchy distortion sound, and then the omega is more of like a big fuzz. It's more of like a wall of sound. It doesn't have as much definition to the sound, not as tight, but you know, it just sounds a lot bigger. And so let's compare the two right now so that you can see what I'm talking about. So we have the blend knob here, which is where you blend the dry signal and the distortion signal, which is very important, because if you just have straight distortion with no dry signal, you tend to lose a lot of low end, and we don't want that to happen. So we're going to dial this back a little bit. The one thing about this is that the gain knob and the blend knob, they don't really have any indication of where the middle is. That's one thing I don't like about it. I don't know why that is. It doesn't click in the middle, and it doesn't have any kind of, like, you know, indentation or little drawing or anything that will let you know where you are in that knob. So you don't really know where the middle position is, where 70% is, or anything. And I don't know why they do it that way. I mean, the EQ knobs have that. The EQ, if I, you know, rotate it, it clicks in the middle. So I know that's the middle right there. I can boost it here, I can cut it here, there's the middle, and then I can boost it, and then there's the middle. But you don't get that on the gain and the blend. I don't know why. So if you're trying to put the blend right down the middle, 50%, you kind of have to just guess it, which is what I'm going to do right now. I'm not going to put it 50%, I'm just going to turn it down a little bit so we get some of that dry signal. But I want you to really hear the difference in the distortions. So I'm not going to go down too much. So the gain is up all the way, and then I'm going to bring the blend down a little bit. Let's see. Okay, that's good. So now let's compare the two. So right now I have the alpha with the red light. And now let's do that same thing with the omega here, and you can see how much bigger sounding it is. Just like a wall of sound, it's massive. So hopefully that gives you an idea of the sound, the distinction between those two, the alpha and the omega. And one little tip I'll give for you here too, if you're trying to get more clarity and not get it to sound too muddy, or you know, get a little more definition out of the sound, you can play this like what I was playing here. I was playing these power chords. Instead of playing it here, I could play it here. And you can see that sounds a lot tighter. and a lot clearer because you're playing on the thinner strings and lower on the fretboard. It's like when you play, you know, with the clean sound, like if I play this A right here, it sounds a lot thinner and weaker than this A right here, even though it's the exact same note. And you know, that's just physics, that's just the way it is. So when you're using distortion, if you play down there, it's going to sound thinner and thereby clearer than if you play it here. Not to say that playing here is better, sometimes you want it to just sound really big. Right? So that's just a little observation on, you know, where you play on the neck and how much it affects your sound and how you should take that into consideration when you're playing. But anyway, so let's go back here to the alpha mode. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to play that same lick, but I'm going to play a lick going into it and a lick in the middle of that riff so that you can see the difference in clarity and sound you're getting with these two different modes. So here we go. And now let's try that with the Omega distortion. So I'll just flip this to the left. We get that blue light right here. And let's try that same thing. So you can see the difference there, how it sounds just a lot clearer and tighter with the alpha distortion and just sounds huge with the Omega distortion. So now let's play around a little bit with the EQ and see what that's going to do to the sound and how we can shape the sound with that EQ. So we'll just go back to the alpha distortion here. We have it all the way up. I'm going to turn it all the way up for this, the blend knob all the way up too. And now, so it's flat right now. We'll just focus on single notes like that just to really get an idea. So if I boost this all the way up, now if I cut it all the way down, so you can see the drastic difference that makes. Like I said, this two-band preamp and EQ is really, really nice, amazing for shaping your sound. So if you're getting, you know, if you want to get a little bit of a clearer sound, maybe it's sounding a little too muddy, a little too messy, you can always just pull that bass down a little bit. Thins out the sound just enough that you should be able to get a little bit more clarity. Now when you're playing in your bedroom, or what I'm doing right now, you know, just plug straight in and you're listening to it in your computer and we're not really dealing with the acoustics of a room, that doesn't really come to play as much. But when you're playing live, you know, you could be playing in a room where everything sounds very boomy, very muddy, and if you have too much low end and with all that fuzz and all that sound, it could just get, you know, very boomy, very muddy. So that's where you would want to just cut that bass a little bit. And that's one thing that I miss in this is there's no mid control. You just get bass and treble. And usually I like having mids because especially with Stingrays, like when I'm playing, you know, with stainless steel strings and I'm doing slaps, sometimes it just sounds a little too mid-rangey, and I like to have that mid control so I can bring it down a little bit and just scoop those mids a little bit. This one doesn't really have that issue. This one doesn't sound mid-rangey at all. It sounds actually pretty perfect, but it's still nice to have that mid control, especially when the distortion kicks in, so that, you know, in some situations you might want to cut the bass and boost the mids a little bit just to get like a tighter low end than you would with just the bass. But, you know, not a huge deal. You can always kind of tweak that with a EQ pedal or in your amp or anything like that. So it's not a major deal. It's just, it's one of those things that would have been nice to have, but not a deal breaker for sure. So now let's try that with the Omega. So I'm going to keep the EQ flat, the bass flat. Let's try that. And now let's boost the bass all the way. Let's cut it all the way. And now let's try that with the alpha. I'll bring the bass back to the middle position. We'll boost the treble all the way. So you get a lot more bite out of that. So if I bring it back down just to the halfway, See, and you bring it up again. And now if we cut it all the way, so you can see how you can shape your sound that way. And now one of the last things we'll do here for the distortion is, let me bring the EQ to flat again, and I want to show you the gain and the blend knob, what they're doing. So right now I have the blend all the way up, so I'm going to bring the gain down so you can see how it sounds as you're bringing that gain up. So let me do this right here. So I'll just play an open string for this. And now let's try that with the Omega. Bring it all the way down. And now let's try that with the blend knob. So here's the blend all the way down. So you can see how it affects your low end. The low end is pretty much just gone when you have it all the way up like that. And if I bring it down, I'll try to do halfway where it seems like halfway would be. So there you go. That is the blend knob and the gain knob. And I think that pretty much covers it all. I mean, if you guys have any more questions about this bass, leave it in a comment down below. But I hope that gives you a good idea of what the two different distortion circuits on this bass sounds like and what they can bring to your playing and your sound. I think it's really, really cool to have that built in. I think those two circuits sound fantastic. Like I said, the 2-band preamp on the clean sound sounds amazing. That alone for me is worth it. I love playing this bass even just for the clean sound that it offers. I love how that sounds. I think having that distortion on board is awesome, especially when you're playing live. You can be anywhere on stage. If you're playing with a wireless unit, you can go away from your pedal board and away from all your stuff, and you can just mess around with your gain, with your, with your blend knob, and you can just kick in from distortion to fuzz or from clean sound to distortion, no matter where you are. Really, really cool. That gives you that control. The light on there looks really, really awesome too. I love that red and the blue light. I think it looks really, really cool. Sounds great. So yeah, I think it's awesome. I really like this bass a lot. I like the clean sound. I like the distortions. And let me know what you guys think. Leave a comment down below. Let me know. If you have any questions, leave it in the comment down there as well. And hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like on the video. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks.